Hello, welcome to the Trews. President Obama has made a speech saying we should be careful about the way we condemn all Muslims or blame Muslims or Islam for violence around the world. Prince Charles, a bloke who's not even meant to have a job and has never had a real one, says we should start blaming young Muslims, or he's worried about imbibe. So, what causes more violence? Is it the radicalisation of young Muslims, or is it the arms trade?
Speaking at the White House prayer breakfast on Thursday, President Obama lumped Christians and murderous Islamic terrorists together.
What President Obama actually did is said, don't get on a high horse if you're an American Christian over atrocities committed in the name of Islam. And in a way, Obama is quite right to say that, because whilst all religious violence is bad and terrible, and Muslim violence bad and terrible, listen to this. Muslim violence has claimed the lives of around 2 million people. God, that's awful, isn't it? But Christian violence has claimed 100 million lives. And more importantly than that, capitalism violence. Capitalism is an ideology too. It has its profits, it has its ideology, it has its institutions, and it's held together in the same way that a religion is. It's a kind of secular extremism.
And lest we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place, remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition,
Never mind the Crusades, what about the Gulf War?
people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ. So this is not unique to one group or one religion. There is a tendency in us, a sinful tendency.
Credit to Barack Obama, he is trying to address the fact that good and evil is not an externalised or religious creed, but a human issue, and every human being has to deal with their own selfishness and their own greed and try to form a society based around our better judgments. But it's not easy to do that if you're the President of the United States. In 2011, the United States exported weapons to countries with concerning human rights records, such as the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Israel, Djibouti, Honduras, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Algeria, Peru, Bahrain, and, themselves. Never mind all these countries, themselves, they've got arms. America is the biggest weapons exporter in the whole world. In 1999, the US had supplied arms or military technology to parties to more than 92% of active conflicts worldwide. So whenever a member of the American government talks about violence and their condemnation of violence, remember they make a good deal of their money from selling the utensils to create and enact that violence.
He crossed the line. In fact, President Obama pole vaulted over the line using some misguided moral equivalency. President Obama reached back 1,000 years to compare a group of Christians then to radical Islamists killing innocents in the name of Allah now.
Well, religious ideology versus another type of religious ideology. Political and social ideologies are what cause the real damage.
Reports say radical Muslim jihadists killed thousands of people.
Yeah, you see that radical Muslim jihadist is killing those people with something, isn't he? He's got a bazooka on his shoulder. You might want to check out where he got that from.
In the past few months alone, and yet, when you take Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever, there are combined killings in the name of religion, well, that number would be 0.
Well, that's not true. In Burma, Buddhist monks in Myanmar are slaughtering women and children, whilst Muslim minorities are repeatedly targeted and killed.
This is coming from the very core of my Christianity, my humanity, and my civilized self. Mr. President, save your legacy. Apologize to Christians everywhere.
Again, with Fox News, the exclusion of relevant information. What's important is the true dominant ideologies.
He doesn't do politics as such.
He doesn't do anything.
At least not overtly, but there is a very timely symbolism to this visit. This was Britain saying to Jordan, we stand alongside you in the fight against Islamic State.
In a way, that's a highly political role, and also on the Trews a little while ago, we talked about the fact that Prince Charles and the Queen have power of veto over bills that have already been passed through Parliament, a thing that doesn't outrage us at all, because we're too busy being outraged by what we're told to be outraged by.
Charles was shown around part of the camp, seeing for himself one part of the human tragedy of a neighbouring country in which Islamist extremism has taken such a hold.
Do you think that some of the problems could be a result of weaponry? The UK sells arms to 23 countries considered dangerous by the Foreign Office. Between 2012 and 2013, the UK, our country, sold £26 billion worth of weapons to 64 different countries, 12.3 billion to countries on the UK's own human rights list. Now me, I'm just a person, as you know, but for me it seems like if you don't want wars and violence, don't have a massive industry selling the tools of war and violence. Oh yeah, but we have to for the economy. Okay then, well then shut up about wars and violence. Just shut up about it. Don't have an opinion, except just express the truth. We need wars and violence because we make loads and loads of money out of it. Don't get involved with amnesty, don't get involved with comic relief, don't get involved in anything. Just shut up and sell your weapons. And if you think that this isn't something that explicitly involves our government as well as big business, it most certainly is. Last week, 40 MPs joined the BBC's Jeremy Vine and hundreds of arms dealers at an arms dealer gala at the Hilton Hotel. Also present was Jeff Hoon, who is the head of government affairs at Augusta Westland, a company that he gave a 1.7 billion contract to while he was in office. While he was Defence Secretary, he gave a 1.6 billion contract to Augusta Westland, that sound evil, and now they've given him a job. I wonder what Vince Cable, the business secretary who was present at that dinner, will be doing in a few years, depending on whether or not he gets voted for. And as I've said before, and as I'm sure I'll continue to say, it doesn't matter who you vote for. What will happen is Britain will continue to sell arms to countries that are violent around the world and then blame young Muslims for the fact that we live in a violent society with the explicit and expressed verbalised support of Prince Charles. I'm worried about violence.
And it's the way in which some young Muslims in Britain have been drawn to extremism which is alarming Charles. Before leaving home, he spoke of his concerns about radicalisation.
Well, then tell your government to stop selling weapons to countries on its own human rights abusers list.
The frightening part is that people can be so radicalised either through contact with somebody else or through the internet. You would think that people who've come here and born here, go to school here, would imbibe the sort of...
You've got imbibe, imbibe, imbibe. Muslims should imbibe.
Imbibe those values and outlooks, but...
Imbibe what? The toxic air of condemnation where there's programmes like Immigrant Street in production, the constant condemnation in the tabloid newspapers, the bombing of countries where people with the same faith and background as them are regularly killed and are never represented, the droning. I think they might be imbibing that a little more than stuff that goes on Facebook.
Charles's language in that interview was very plain. That he framed his comments in such a way is a measure of his concern.
If Charles or our government or you care about violence, stop condemning young powerless people who out of desperation reach out for ways to make themselves heard and instead condemn the powerful, profiting from our misery through their industry. That's some true news. Subscribe here, imbibe here.
Is a tool that is abused to fool you and to leave you scared and confused. Trews is like the news. If the news was true, I want some Trews. Let's have some Trews.